It has been less than a week since terrorist attacks rocked the Indian metropolis of Mumbai. And while the city struggles to return to normality, many questions are begging to be asked. Joining us to help us answer them is Siddharth Varadarajan, an acclaimed Indian journalist and deputy editor of India's top English language paper, The Hindu. He joins us from New Delhi. Thank you for joining us, Siddharth. So first of all, tell us factually, what do we know any more about who's behind this? And then we'll move into what's the political fallout of this.
Well, there are 3 or 4 pieces of evidence or claims that the police have put out. You have, of course, the prize catch, which is the one terrorist who was actually arrested or caught red-handed in the middle of an attack that he was staging. And this is one of those rare events, not only in India but worldwide, where law enforcement agencies have managed to apprehend a terrorist in the midst of an attack that he was committing. And his interrogation subsequently has yielded information, according to police claims that nobody can verify, but has yielded information which has led the police and the government of India to essentially charge elements in Pakistan with having organized and planned this attack. And the organization that the police are naming, as per the interrogation of Kamal, who was the one extremist who was caught, is the Lashkar-e-Toiba, which is based in Muridke, outside of Lahore, and run by a gentleman called Hafiz Saeed, who has been active for the last 2 or 3 decades in extremist politics in Pakistan.
Now, this is an organization that's been mostly involved in Kashmir?
Well, it's been responsible for a large number of attacks, a large number of violent incidents in Kashmir. But the agenda of the Lashkar, unlike other organizations which are active in Kashmir, its stated objective goes beyond that of simply getting Kashmir to join Pakistan. I remember an interview I conducted with Hafiz Saeed perhaps 8 years ago, where he said that his goal was to restore to Muslim rule those parts of India that he considered to be traditionally having been ruled by Muslims and which now are not ruled by Muslims. So there is a sense in which the Lashkar-e-Toiba has a wider agenda. And I actually believe that the attacks in Bombay have very little to do with Kashmir, actually. They have a lot more to do with the wider agenda of the Lashkar, if indeed the Lashkar is involved, and of course the complicated triangular politics of the United States, Pakistan, and India.
Now, before we get into that, if the Indian authorities seem to think they know who's behind it, and we know who the leader of this organization is, are they now chasing this man? I mean, or is he underground? Why has he not been arrested?
Well, the man is in Pakistan, right? And
I mean the Pakistani authorities. Yeah.
Yes. Well, the Pakistani authorities say that we want proof. And I think, in a sense, their stand is correct. I mean, this is something which needs to be approached properly. India has made accusations in the past which Pakistan has never taken seriously. But I think we are now in a situation, not only in terms of the bilateral relationship, but also in terms of the heightened international awareness of Pakistan's role in the fight against violent extremism and terrorism, that I think a well-mounted Indian case with all the evidence assembled in a credible manner and presented to Pakistan and the international community, I think has the possibility of yielding results. I think that's what the Indian authorities seem to be aiming at. I see, despite some revival of accusations on either side, I see some restraint from the Indian authorities. They have been quite careful in what they have said so far. They've basically not blamed the government of Pakistan or the intelligence agencies of Pakistan. They've spoken of elements in Pakistan.
The recent terrorist attack on Mumbai was carried out by elements from Pakistan. Government expected that strong action would be taken against those elements, whosoever they may be, responsible for this outrage.
They've asked for the Pakistani authorities to cooperate, and I think as and when the evidence and the reasons why India is blaming the Lashkar are presented to Pakistan, I think that's when pressure will mount, and I would expect the Pakistani authorities to come under immense international pressure to take action against this gentleman.
Now, Barack Obama's plan for the region and plans for Afghanistan have been hinging on this whole issue of trying to get a rapprochement between India and Pakistan over Kashmir, that it would somehow, some kind of quid quo pro, where India withdraws some troops and allows Pakistan to take some of the troops on the border facing India and move them up to the northwest frontier provinces to wage a much bigger attack on the Taliban and al-Qaeda forces there. So how will all of this affect this possible deal that Obama's been talking about?
I think, I mean, there are 2 points to bear in mind. I think, first of all, there's no doubt that the authors of this outrage in Mumbai essentially want to provoke some sort of an Indian, I wouldn't say military response, but some kind of, threat, some kind of angry, perhaps a mobilization of forces on the Indian side, which would obviously then lead to Pakistani forces that are currently engaging with the Taliban and the al-Qaeda on Pakistan's western frontier, being redeployed to the Indian side, where, contrary to perceptions in the West, there's actually been a considerable easing of tension over the past 5 years. And this brings me to, Barack Obama's logic, because I think the flaw in the notion of a quid pro quo is that the Pakistani army's efforts on the Afghan border are somehow linked to what's happening on the Indian side, that it's a question of the quantity of troops that Pakistan can deploy or not, and that somehow tension with India is preventing them from deploying greater numbers of people. I think the problem, as we've seen, isn't really the number of troops that Pakistan is willing to commit, but the allegations of subterranean linkages between elements of the Pakistani military establishment and the Taliban. Essentially, you have fairly credible evidence of safe havens in Quetta and other parts of Pakistan where the remnants of the old Taliban leadership have taken refuge. And, there is a sense in which Pakistan isn't, the Pakistani military at any rate, isn't, giving 100% effort in the battle against these elements. So I think that's really the problem, and not what happens on the India-Pakistan front. So this is, in a sense, a false equation that Mr. Obama has set up or been advised to set up. But clearly, the authors of this terrorist outrage intend to play on that and to draw attention, in a sense, to the possibility of greater India-Pakistan tension as a problem for the West as they battle against al-Qaeda and the Taliban.
So is it possible that this attack might actually backfire on the terrorists, in the sense that if India and Pakistan, if the relationship's not inflamed and it in fact creates an atmosphere to even further target the Islamists, they may not get what they wished for here?
I think we are really at a potential turning point, in the sense that we could go either way. I mean, as I said, the last 5 years have seen unprecedented improvement in relations between India and Pakistan, and despite the minor perturbations and ups and downs of the last 2 or 3 years, actually the last 2 months or 3 months have been pretty good months. We have begun, opened up the line of control in Kashmir for trade between the two parts of Kashmir. You have, of course, bus and train and air services that are carrying on as normal. Unprecedented number of people visiting, each other. So I think that there is a sense in which relations have improved.
In the next section of our interview, let's discuss the implications of this on Indian politics. Certainly, there's extremists both within India and within Pakistan who would not like to see a rapprochement. And the rise of Hindu nationalism, once again, as elections approach in India, this may be fodder for their machine. So please join us for part 2 of our interview, when we explore the consequences within Indian politics of the terrorist attacks in Mumbai. There are times when reality just asserts itself, in spite of the haze created by television, news, and entertainment. Sometimes crisis rips a tear in the fabric of myth and propaganda. Now a profound economic crisis has ripped asunder the American dream itself. Millions of people losing jobs and homes. They lack proper health care and any real sense of security. Since 2001, workers' wages have fallen or remained stagnant, even though worker productivity has risen almost 33%. By 2006, the top 1% of households were receiving 23% of all pre-tax income, more than double what it was in the 1970s. It's the greatest concentration of income since 1928. As unemployment rises, we need to know why this crisis is happening and what we can do to defend ourselves. Why are wages so low? Why is the society so laden with debt? Is it in ordinary Americans' interest to have $1 trillion military budget to project power across the globe? Corporate television news won't ask these questions, let alone try to find answers. Only a truly independent news network can tackle these questions with courage and with ordinary people's interests in mind. We need a news network that's independent of corporations, governments, and political parties. We need the real news. But there won't be a real news network unless we raise substantial funds right away. The current financial crisis has hit our funding hard. Together, we do have the power to turn it around. There are already hundreds of thousands of people watching the real news every month. If everyone pitches in, we can build an internet and cable television network that will change the face of media forever. You can organize house parties, talk to friends at school and at work, send email blasts and spread the word. Distribute this video to everyone you know. Pick up the phone and call a few friends and suggest they visit therealnews.com. Invest just 10 minutes a day to ask friends and colleagues to join the campaign to create a truly independent source of internet and television news. Together, we can build this network. Just 50,000 people at $10 a month gets us to our first level of sustainability. You can help us reach this goal, and when we do, we'll move to television in millions of homes across North America. Help us reach an audience in the millions. Please contribute generously. Spread the word. Let's make the Real News television network a reality.
Your tax-deductible donation makes it possible. Please contribute at therealnews.com.